Welcome to the podcast Crash, Burn, Rise Again, where we share stories of burning out and rebuilding better. Join myself, Shireen Lister, your host, and my special guests as we share our personal journeys through burnout, stress, overwhelm, and more, and show how we came out the other side. Learn and leverage from the lessons and wisdom we gained along the way so we can help you to rise too. Okay, hello and welcome to episode 9. And I have today the beautiful Debbie Munn with me here. Thank you so much for joining me, Debbie.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to be on.
Okay, I'm excited to hear more about your story. I've been filled in that you were a fantastic guest to have because your journey through burnout and recovery has been really interesting and intriguing. I'm excited to learn more, as I'm sure everyone listening is. First of all, I want you to start by telling us a little bit about you. So where you are, what you do, a little bit about your business, the You Project as well.
Okay, so I am Debbie, as you said. I am in Noosa, lucky me, although on the Sunshine Coast, which is the most ironically named place at the minute, because all we've had for, it feels like ever, is rain. Originally from the UK, so I came over to Australia in 2003. And I've done various things career-wise. We won't go right back to the shoe shop days or the supermarket days, but right now I've got a network marketing business. So I help, the You Project really is helping women, helping you, not you specifically, but maybe you, who knows, helping women become healthier, more vibrant, have more energy, all the things that really my burnout journey took from me, or that I lost over that period. So for me, I'm super passionate about the products that I do use and recommend, because they weren't the only reason that I have managed to find balance and better health, but they certainly have contributed to that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I love how so often as business owners, what we find ourselves doing is exactly the remedy for what we needed when we struggled most, isn't it? You know, there's
absolutely.
a reason I'm a stress and burnout coach. There's a reason that you didn't just pick any products for, you know, to sell. You sell stuff that really helps with everything that you need to maintain your health and well-being, and that you needed then. One of my coaches refers to it as our mess is our message. You know, whatever we've been through, we end up doing. And I think it's beautiful, and sometimes it's like the silver lining, I think, of what we've been through is what it teaches
absolutely.
us. Yeah. So I wanted to start by, if we can dive right into it, a little bit about that burnout journey for you. So you were telling me it's when you're in the UK a few years ago, when you were a little bit younger, just a couple.
Thanks, Shireen.
Tell me, what was going on in your life, in your work at the time, that got you to this place where eventually you realized you were burnt out?
Okay, so I was thinking a bit about this earlier on before we jumped on. I'm like, really? It's no surprise that I ended up as low as I did. In hindsight, at the time, when you're in it, when you're living it, you don't realize. So I went to uni. I moved back to my hometown after uni, got a job, and I was living life, and I was really burning the candle at both ends. But I was 21, so most of us do that, right? So, and then I got a really cool job that was going to give me massive opportunities. And I grew up in I'm 49, so nearly. So I grew up in the 70s, and it was all about the story of how to be successful was very much work hard, climb the ladder. And obviously being a woman and working in the early 90s was different, and things have moved quite a bit forward for women. Still not, that's a whole other conversation, still not where it should be, but I was in a very big corporate world, and I was too young and too naive to kind of deal with that properly. And all I could see was go promotions. And so I bought my own house at 20, I think I was 23 when I bought my own house. I was on my own. I had a great group of friends, but one day, and I was just pushing myself. I was getting up really early in the morning. I was coming home later at night. There was no one at home to come home to. So there was nobody going, Debbie, you went to work at 6 and you're walking in the door at 9:30, and you've done that every day for 3 months. and you haven't had a weekend off and all of those things. But my girlfriend actually came around one day and she was like, Deb, we're all a bit worried about you because we haven't seen you for a while. You keep not making excuses, there weren't excuses, but you keep working instead of coming out or just coming round. And it was really her. It wasn't my own body. Even though as soon as she said it, I was like, oh, you're so right. But I think I'd just got into that push, go, and it became, my body was just running on adrenaline and I was crazily exhausted. So I actually went to the doctor. I was like, thank you so much. You are right. And while I was in it, I hadn't even noticed. So I went to the doctor. We had some tests. We did some stuff. And they actually diagnosed ME, which I don't even know if it's a thing now. I think we call that adrenal fatigue. It's like an old fashioned, it's like the old school adrenal fatigue. And it's a, I don't know, I won't even try and say the medical term, but I remember my mum was like, oh my gosh, this is disastrous. I've been reading things about it, and she found all the fear stuff, obviously. And she was super concerned. So I remember she marched me off to an ME support group because I was only 22, I was young. And I think she was thinking, anyway, that was a turning point in my journey, actually, because I walked in there and there was a lot of people that were my age, not much older, and a few of them were in wheelchairs, they were literally exhausted and hadn't listened, and I was like, no disrespect to them, of course, but I was like, nah, this is not going to be my journey. So I realized then, so I'm kind of glad she marched me up. At the time I was like, this is weird, like I feel like a weirdo being marched up by my mum. But it kind of was then that I thought, no, this can't be my story. So I needed to put some things into place. That said, I was still only 23. So a lot of that was just deciding that wasn't going to be my story, but continuing to do all the things that I was doing. So.
Oh, that's all too familiar, that bit of it, for sure.
We're so human.
Yeah. When we get, I'll just knock my mic over. I'm that excited. Sorry. Sorry for the crash and bang, everyone. I think we get so caught up in what we see everyone else doing sometimes, especially when we're young and impressionable like that too. So if everyone else is working hard and everyone else is doing long hours, we just get carried away sometimes and think, oh, stress is just, that's how I'm successful. If I'm just burned out and stressed, like that's what you do. And it's really so unhealthy. And it's just this culture that we don't know any better. And thank God you had beautiful friends to show you what we're too close to see sometimes. When we're stuck in it, we don't see it. Mine took, knots on the head and passing out and all sorts of things for me to start to see it too. So, I get it. It takes, and I'm the same as you. I didn't change then, I went back after a brain injury to working, 6 days a week for a year after that, because that's what
my goodness.
So I feel you.
What are we like?
Well, it's sometimes we're just not quite ready, I guess, to make the change. Absolutely. And it's beautiful that you're like, yes, I know I don't want that path. And you could see then where you could end up and how beautiful that you had that. And I guess then it took your time to get there, to be ready to make some change.
Took quite a bit more time, but that's okay.
When you were in this state and you had your diagnosis and so on, what sort of symptoms were going on for you? You're saying you're burning the candle at both ends, you're working long hours. Yeah. What were you feeling? What was going on in your mind, if you can think back to then?
Yeah, I can remember it really well, because occasionally now I can feel it. Obviously, now is extremely different to back then, but a lot of brain fog, no mental clarity really. So I'd work all these hours and do all this stuff, but I wasn't really. A clear brain and a healthy body could have gotten that work done in a quarter of the time. But because I was in the state I was in, it was taking me that long. So, and I just, honestly, when I look back now, I think, God, I'm so glad. Her name's Claire, my friend that was like, Debbie, we need to talk. I'm so glad she said something, because I was literally waking up and I would want to cry most mornings. I just could not bear the thought of having to get out of bed. Once I'd gotten up and had all my coffee to, give me some fake energy. I was doing all the good things. I could get going, but just that whole, and I would go to bed at night, and I'd come home, I'd often not even eat because I was so tired. So all the things, nutrition, good quality sleep, I was getting none of those things, and I just had nothing, and everything felt overwhelming. Even the simplest little things, like, I don't even know, but tiny things that shouldn't be even an issue felt massive. So that's ideal.
Yeah. And it keeps perpetuating then when we get in that cycle of like, I'm too tired to eat, so I won't bother, and then you don't have energy because you've not been eating, and it just becomes this cycle until we change something. So what was it that you did that turned things around for you? I'm sure it was a combination of things.
It was a huge combination of things, and it's actually been over. It's not one particular thing, but I think the catalyst was getting a new job, and albeit it was still a extremely long hours, kind of stressful, but it was super fun. My job was fun, and that bringing that fun back in, even though I had to work hard, but I really enjoyed it, and I worked with great people, and it didn't feel like as big of a drag as it had in the previous job, and I felt a bit clearer. And I think that was more because of new energy. It was probably fake energy still, but it was new, and it was like, oh, actually I do feel a bit better. I did start to make sure I had time off. That was probably the biggest thing. And when I would get time off, as much as I really wanted to go out partying with my friends, and I was probably maybe 25 by then, I'd say no a lot of the time still. So I was aware that 25 and I was single, living on my own, my friendships were very important. So instead of going out partying and drinking and doing all the stuff, I'd have my girlfriend around and I'd cook.
Perfect.
Some of my favorite, I was thinking about a few of these days. The other day, I was actually thinking about this, and I'd get beautiful food because I worked for a catering company, or I worked at a racing circuit, and I was very close to the caterers. And they'd give me beautiful food, and I'd bring it home, and the chef would say, right, do this, this, and this. And I'd create these meals. I'd get to nurture my friends and myself, potter around in my kitchen. It just made me feel really good. And it wasn't going out and being wild till 3 a.m. There was still a fair bit of that, but there was less.
Yeah.
There was less of that. And I think that was really the start. And that was when I got the awareness of, oh, hang on. Doing this makes me feel better. It brings me into myself. It makes me feel peaceful and grounded. And that was when I first started my yoga journey as well. I haven't got a big yoga story. Don't expect me to tell you I can do crazy yoga poses. I can't. But I did start yoga, and I did realize the power of that for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Such good, and they're really sustainable practices, which I think is important when we burn out, to not do stuff that takes a whole lot of extra energy or effort, or is really, full on, and we do it for a bit and then it's like, oh, I can't do that anymore in my life, or it's, there are things you can still be doing today. And I think it's really beautiful when we can learn to take time off. Did you find that hard to do it first? I used to feel guilty about time off. I don't know about you.
Oh God, I can tell you a whole thing around that. Do you know what? I've just remembered now that made it really easy. It's going to sound really funny. The Harry Potter books came out. I'm a huge reader, and Harry Potter, a long time ago, I told you, the book started coming out, and that really made me stop, because if I'm into a book, even now, it's like a drug. So I would book time off. I'd pre-order, I sound like a right nerd, sorry everyone. I'd pre-order the early copies of Harry Potter books, and I'd book 3 or 4 days off work as holiday.
Beautiful.
And that's the first time I've ever really put these two things together. I think I was thinking, yay, I get to stay off and read, and I was super excited. But in reality, I was fully listening to I was doing exactly what I needed to do. So I would sit down with cups of tea and Harry Potter books and just have the biggest downtime. I can't even remember what the question was. I think I've gone off on a weird tangent.
No,
sorry.
That's perfect about taking time off. Yeah, I think sometimes our subconscious mind is really clever at finding ways to do what we need. So, if it had just said to you, Debbie, you need to take time off to recover. No, I should be working, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it would get you hooked into Harry Potter. And that was a reason for you to start that and to realize the benefit of it. Because once
I thought I was the winner. I thought I'm winning, but
you get to do Harry Potter as well.
Yeah.
You don't hate me. I only just watched the last movie this week. That's how behind I am.
Have you read the book?
I'm not quite the reader you are, Debbie. No.
Okay, that's okay. You don't need to say it like that. It's okay to not be a reader. But I just thought earlier as well. I grew up with such a story. I had a mum that was always busy. Mm-hmm. She would never sit down. She'd sit down, a bum would touch the seat, and she'd jump up again. It'd be like, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Yeah. I'm a little inclined to still be that, but I'm aware. So if I find myself doing that, I'm like, whoa. What are you showing your kids? So I try to be really not show mum. I love my mum. She's passed away, but she was a great mum. She was just a busy mum. And it was like she'd created this story around sitting down and relaxing as being lazy. And I used to hear that word quite a lot as a kid. Lazy, blah, 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 or judging other people. Oh, they're so lazy. They've just sat and watched a 3-hour movie in the day or whatever. That's just an example. I'm not sure she ever said that, but just as an example. So I think I grew up with that whole, if I'm not doing anything, easy, and lazy is like a bad thing, So I think that came into play a lot.
Yeah, I'm the same. And it is like our parents can have the most beautiful intentions and be the most lovely people, but some of the stories they've inherited or created just don't serve us, And so you touched on one earlier as well. You grew up at a time where it was, we need to work hard. And that's a belief that a lot of people grow up with. You've got to work hard to get money, to get success.
Yeah.
And you've got to be busy and can't just rest and be lazy. So, it really doesn't help us to be on a path other than burnout when we learned that. And so it's then our job to rewrite those beliefs, to start to learn other ways. And sadly for you and I, we had to get sick first to start to realize it was time. But that's, we've come through that and we're doing better with those now. And it's about, okay, how do we change that relationship? And for me, I've had to separate rest and lazy. I can rest even when I have things to do because that is what my body needs. When I'm just procrastinating and putting stuff off and scrolling through Netflix and I'm feeling okay, I need to sometimes go, hey, am I being lazier than I want to be now? There's a difference. And sometimes that's okay as well. Like it's a Monday, we're recording this on everyone. And, I just spent the weekend, even though I have a huge to-do list, doing absolutely nothing. So my partner and I had a weekend off together where we just connected because that's what I needed. And it might have been lazy, but that's what you need sometimes. Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world, It's not the end of the world. That's really, really cool, that difference between resting and lazy. And I think I have made myself feel so much better by calling everything rest or self-care.
Awesome. Yeah. And it can be. And sometimes we need to surrender to being lazy or doing nothing or being bored and be okay with that. That's where we're creative. When we allow ourselves to be bored, it's when we can actually have ideas, all sorts of things.
Actually, and interestingly, I've spent the last few weeks, I've still been active and I do active things, but I've really given myself a lot of downtime. Not because I was feeling particularly like I needed it, but I just really felt like I wanted it, which I'm not used to. But I gave myself that time and loads of really cool things happened. Like you say, the creativity went up. I just feel great for stepping back out of that.
Yeah. And sometimes when we indulge in that, when we're not feeling at our worst, because, if we're so used to pushing hard and then, we rest when we're broken sort of thing, it takes time to learn to do it anyway. And sometimes it ends up being the best thing. It ends up being that we do it ahead of time. So you might find now that the next month somehow turns out really busy and you're like, oh, thank God I built my energy reserve up first and got all my ideas sorted. So sometimes if we just trust, the answers come in time as well, which can be challenging when we're not used to that practice, I think, but it can be really great, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you rest and have self-care. What else do you do these days to mean that you're not doing what you were in your 20s?
Oh my gosh.
Less nights out, maybe.
Way less nights out, much earlier nights. I've got a really good sleep routine. So that really is super important to me. I never slept very well either, which is the irony of this whole burnout stuff, right? So I'd come home, I would be exhausted. I'd sleep like a baby for the first few hours, then I'd be wide awake. And then I'd look at the clock and it would get to 4 a.m. I did that for years. And in fact, my husband said to me, I sleep really well now. And he said to me about 6 months ago, that I can't remember when you didn't sleep like this. I just sleep really good. But it's taken time. It's taken finding the right things, doing the right things. About 4 years ago, I decided to never take my phone into my bedroom, which is a big one. I say this on my team calls and everyone's like, I've asked them to do something really wild. They're like, that. And my sister, who lives still in the UK, I'll be up now because it's my daytime, and she'll send me a message and I go, I'll answer it. And then I go, hang on, it's like 2 a.m. Why are you on your phone? Oh, I got up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, yeah, put your phone away and go back to sleep. So that was a really big thing for me, to not have that beside me. What did you ask me? What have I done to make myself feel better?
What else do you do to avoid burnout?
Okay, so lots of things that make me feel good. I don't force myself to do the things that you could read. You should feel good if you do this. But I go out in nature a lot. That really is my number one thing. If I have the energy, and I do now, I have good energy. My energy is great. So I try and go for beautiful walks. So I live in Noosa. We've got the national park here, and it is just, every time I go there, I think, I live here. So I try and do that at least once a week. I meet with friends regularly because I've got the best girlfriends, and they just make me either laugh or cry or all the things, and we just have the best time. I do have regular massage. I sound like a bit of a pampered lady. I'm not. Great. I work very hard, and I allow myself to do it. I have massage. I have regular Reiki, which I found really helped, actually. Energy work. And diet and exercise. So I come from a CrossFit background, which was brilliant for someone that's got a history of adrenal fatigue. I'm like, oh, great. I'll start going to CrossFit and I'll punish my body and push myself to the max 6 days a week. And on day 7, when I should have my rest day, I'll find something else to do because the gym is closed. So I lived in that. I repeated, this is the thing. That was over here, and that was only from 2011. So I'd learned all the stuff. I was managing. I felt better, but I still had the naivety, I think, and I still hadn't really taken that big relationship between the two things forward. So, it had been 20 years, and I was like, CrossFit sounds like a great idea. What I really should have thought, but what I really should have thought was, this sounds fun for people that do not have burnout things going on. So upon reflection, that wasn't, I loved my journey, but now exercise-wise, so I do exercise every day, but I do what I feel I need to do. Sometimes I will flog myself. We've got all the CrossFit stuff at home because we owned a gym. So sometimes I will go out there and do stuff. Often I'll just jump on the Peloton because I've got a Peloton, they're brilliant. And I'll do a bit of riding for half an hour at the level what I'm really good at that I used to be really bad at is, it is what it is right now. So I'd go to a class and I'd feel really depleted, but I would give it everything and I'd be like, dig, dig, dig. Whereas now I'll get on the bike. If I feel my energy's down here, I work out down there. If I feel I'm here, that's where I work out. So, and lots of walking. I've got 2 dogs, so lots of dog walks. And
yeah. Oh, sounds great. Sounds good. And it's about learning to listen in to what we need and not doing what we should, and it can take a while to change the habit and the pattern, because that's what happens. Sometimes we just replace it with a new way of doing things,
Yes, crazy people, but you just hit the nail on the head with the word should. So a few years ago, we were sitting down talking about our intentions for the following year. And I said, this was probably 3 years ago, I was like, I'm going to try and really never live into that. I should do this. I should do a workout today. I should, whatever it is, whatever comes after should. If we've said should, it's just not the right thing for us. It's like, oh, I really feel like working out. I feel like going for a walk. I really feel like eating a piece of cake. I really feel like, just that intuitive, actually properly listening. Because when I know, I'm nearly 50 and it's taken me this long, but when I actually listen to what my body is saying, I just feel my best. And I did it all last week. Every day I listened and I had the best week. So
fantastic. Yeah, I'm on a mission to remove should from our vocabulary. I slip up awful, sometimes, isn't it? But for everyone, it's either that we're doing someone else's goal or a goal that's not aligned with us at that time when we put should in there. So they don't serve us well. Awesome. So, and the other thing that you mentioned briefly at the beginning, but not then, is you have things in your range of products that you sell that also help you with your wellbeing. So I know you have tonics that help with adrenal levels and supplements and all sorts of things. So that's something else that people can reach out to you about, can't they, if they want to know what sort of stuff you're using and what works well for you in that regard. Of course, it's not the whole picture, is it? But it helps for sure.
It's not the whole picture at all, but there is one thing that I know has made a huge difference, and it's just a herbal tonic. So it's got adaptogenic herbs, which I didn't know anything about until 2011. But they are phenomenal. So it's got things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, schizandra, things like that. So it's got all the stuff that will help our body buffer the cortisol effect of our stress. And Beautiful. It's super cool. So I love that. And also that's a big player in my sleep routine as well. Weirdly, it's a big player in my morning energy. And it's a big player in exactly the same thing in my sleep routine. They're powerful herbs. So
very nice. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you want to find out about those, you can find Deb at theyouproject.co, and all your Facebook and Instagram links and your website I will put in the show notes. Find out and link to that sort of stuff, and have a chat with Deb, follow her, have a look at what she's got. It's all fabulous.
I'm a bit crazy. If you follow me, you're probably going to be like, whoa, what does she mean? She didn't used to have energy. She looks like she's got a lot.
Sometimes we're good at recovering, and sometimes we're good at just looking different to what's going on as well. Hey, so sometimes people just think if they see it one day, we're always like that too. And, it ebbs and flows, doesn't it? But, you've healed and you do now, and that's incredible.
I think I know I have, and I was going to say that I actually do. I wake up every day, annoyingly. I'm the only morning person in this house. I've got 2 children and a husband, and I'll be like, in the morning, and my son's like, and my husband stays in bed, and my daughter's real cranky in the morning. So I do wake up really, it's not like, I wake up raring to go, but more often than not I do. And I actually never think about going to sleep in the day, which is really cool. But I sleep really well at night. So I think those things, and it's a whole thing. It's lots of different things. Diet, no gluten. That's something that made a massive difference to me. Less alcohol, not no alcohol, less. And no gluten was a really big thing. So there's lots of little things that have made a big difference.
And I'm so glad you have. I'm so glad you're in the place where you have that energy and you're feeling great. And
thank you.
The journey has come to a beautiful place. And thank you so much for sharing all the steps to that and what you do now with our audience. Because I love how when we share our stories of how we've recovered, it's a guiding light for people who might still be stuck in those earlier stages and going, is it ever going to get better? And it absolutely can. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you. I'm really grateful, and I hope that, like you say, I hope that does help. And as I said, and as you know, well, there's so many little components to it, but if anyone does want to reach out, I would love, regardless of the product stuff, I don't care about that. If anyone wants to ask me any questions, more than happy.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you for being on today. No worries. And thank you everyone for listening. Until next time, keep tuning in and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you. Well, that brings to an end today's episode of Crash, Burn, Rise Again. It's been fantastic to have you with us today, and I hope you can join me next time. I also hope you've really enjoyed and maybe even learned something today. What I ask next is, if you're loving what you're hearing, please subscribe on whatever channel you normally listen to your podcasts, or on my YouTube channel. And you can also follow along and find all previous podcast episodes on my website, recastcoaching.com.au. If you're enjoying the podcast, the other thing I'd love is if you can share and recommend to any friends, family, and colleagues you think would benefit from a little bit of crash, burn, rise again. Thanks so much, and until next time, bye for now.